Britain is raising its terror threat level to critical as Prime Minister Theresa May warns another attack may be imminent. She ordered the military to deploy troops tonight after the bombing in Manchester that killed 22 people. Special correspondent Natalie Powell begins our coverage.
Oh my God. What's going on? What just happened?
The scene in Manchester last night, moments after a suicide bomber blew himself up at a crowded concert. It happened at the Manchester Arena, an indoor venue that seats 21,000 people. The bomb went off in the space connecting the arena and adjacent Victoria train station. The attack set off a stampede, just as American pop star Ariana Grande had finished performing.
I was like, we need to run. So we started running. We ran straight out the doors, all the way down to the hotel. And all I could hear was screaming, people crying. Everyone was just running everywhere. It was completely madness.
People were screaming around us and pushing down the stairs to go outside, and people were falling down. Girls were crying, and we saw these women being treated by paramedics that had like open wounds on the legs, no shoes. It was just chaos.
This afternoon, Greater Manchester Police Chief Constable Ian Hopkins publicly identified the attacker as a Briton of Libyan descent.
I can confirm that the man suspected of carrying out last night's atrocity is 22-year-old Salman Abidi.
Hopkins also confirmed police raided 2 sites in Manchester and arrested a man in connection with the attack.
Our priority, along with the police counter-terrorist network and our security partners, is to continue to establish whether he was acting alone or working as part of a wider network.
The Islamic State group claimed responsibility today in a statement that said one of the Caliphate soldiers managed to plant an explosive device in the middle of the gathering of crusaders. US intelligence officials voiced doubts about the claim. In London, Prime Minister Theresa May condemned the attack, the deadliest in Britain since 2005.
All acts of terrorism are cowardly attacks on innocent people. But this attack stands out for its appalling, sickening cowardice, deliberately targeting innocent, defenceless children and young people who should have been enjoying one of the most memorable nights of their lives.
May also announced that campaigning for the upcoming June the 8th election has been suspended. Her opponent and leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, also denounced the attacks.
This is an appalling act of violence against people, and it must be totally and unreservedly and completely condemned.
Always remember.
Thousands of people turned out today for a vigil in Manchester. And at Buckingham Palace in London, Queen Elizabeth II held a minute of silence. Condolences also came pouring in from abroad. President Trump interrupted his visit to Bethlehem today to address the attack.
We stand in absolute solidarity with the people of the United Kingdom. So many young, beautiful, innocent people living and enjoying their lives murdered by evil losers in life.
Newly elected French President Emmanuel Macron went to the British Embassy in Paris to express his government's sympathy and solidarity.
What happened yesterday in Manchester showed once again that terrorists have a target, the free world, youth, and that we all have a deep common destiny in this regard.
Russian President Vladimir Putin sent his own message of condolences and said, "We strongly condemn this cynical, inhumane crime. We are certain its perpetrators will not escape the punishment they deserve." The US Department of Homeland Security says there's no credible threat to US music venues, but it warns there may be increased security around public places and events in the days ahead.
And an increased police presence is certainly something that we've seen here on the streets of Manchester, but it's also likely to continue, Hari, not just here in Manchester, but across the UK, of course, with the UK government now increasing the terror threat level to critical. That's its highest level.
Natalie, we've just heard that of the few of the details of the couple of the victims that have come out. There have been so many victims that have been killed and injured. As more news of this is made public, what's happening to the people on the streets there?
That's right. We now know, of course, that 22 people died in this attack. 59 people were injured. Among those fatalities, of course, we've, as you've said, had the names of a number of them being released, and we are expecting more in the coming hours and days. A 20-year-old man was among them. The first person to be released, though, the name was an 18-year-old girl, Georgina Calendar. She was a student locally, but perhaps most tragic of all, Hari, is the 8-year-old girl, the youngest so far to be pronounced dead, Safi Rose Roussos. Now, she was attending this concert with her mother and her sister. They were both taken to separate hospitals because of their injuries, and it was only later, we understand, that they discovered of her death, of course, an 8-year-old girl, which really goes to show the tragedy here. But as we were expecting further names and certainly ages of these, we know that a number of them were children that perished in this attack, are likely to come out in the coming days.
Natalie, also the role of social media here. Ariana Grande has an enormous social media presence. Social media is probably one of the first ways people found out about this attack, but there were also opportunities for people to help through it.
Absolutely. It was an immediate response, really, from Great Manchester Police putting out on Twitter that an incident had occurred. But immediately after that, interestingly, people were tweeting the hashtag #OpenManchester, telling people that were stuck in the area. A lot of people, of course, couldn't get home, and there was sheer panic in this area, telling them to come in to their own homes and they would take care of them. It was very much similar to what we'd seen in Paris during the Bataclan and the other attacks that took place, with the Porte Ouverte hashtag that trended, getting people off the streets and into homes where they could be safe. In addition to that, of course, we've also seen a huge movement to try to find many of the missing people using social media, using Twitter, and of course we've seen a solidarity movement here as well with the hashtag Peace for Manchester.
All right, Natalie Powell joining us from Manchester. Thanks so much. We'll return to the Manchester attacks news after the summary.